Mohit Pawar, author and entrepreneur. In India, we begin any auspicious occasion with the lighting of the lamp. May I request all the dignitaries on the dais to kindly light the ceremonial lamp to begin this important event. Lighting of the lamp is the lighthouse which illuminates and ignites the path of digital India. डिजिटल इंडिया पूरे भारत को डिजिटल बनाने की एक मुहिम है। और ये ख्वाब है जो जल्दी पूरा होगा। किसी ने कहा है ख्वाब है तो मंजिल है, मंजिल है तो रास्ता है, रास्ता है तो मुसीबतें हैं, मुसीबतें हैं, मुश्किलें हैं तो हौसला भी है। सुनो जो ज़ोर हवाओं के सनसनाने का, यही है वक्त चरागों को आजमाने का। Thank you so much. Following our very rich old Indian tradition of Atithi Devo Bhav, we want to welcome our esteemed dignitaries on the dais with bouquet of flowers. I would like to request Geeta ji, she's scientist, to please present bouquets to all the dignitaries on the dais. Mr. Arvind Thakur, Geeta Katpalia, scientist, will be presenting bouquet to Shri Arvind Thakur. Mr. Ganapati Venugopal, Mr. Sarandeep Singh, Mr. Nakul Saxena, Mr. Siddharth Das, and Mr. Mohit Pawar. फूलों के बाद अब शब्दों की बारी आती है. Now I request Joint Secretary Mr. Rajiv Bansal to deliver welcome address, and he'll also talk about the problems and challenges faced by startup companies in IT sector.
Dear panelists, respected participants, ladies, gentlemen, members of the media, and my friends from the startup community, it's a pleasure to welcome you all here today. I'm very happy and that you could spare the time on a busy working day to be amidst us today. As you know that this time's International Trade Fair, we are joined by Mr. Hill. Welcome. Welcome. Please join. So as I was saying, this time's the International Trade Fair has a focus on Digital India. And Digital India is a prominent program of the government, and we thought that as part of this program we could organize a couple of events around the Digital India theme. And one of these events as part of this program is the seminar that we are organizing today. have planned for 4 seminars. We held one yesterday, we are holding one today, and we plan to hold 2 more seminars, one tomorrow and day after, on different themes. One of the important themes of Digital India is obviously Startup India program, Startup India. It's been a focus area of the government, as well as there's a lot of initiative and support and commitment to this program from the Prime Minister himself. You would have seen the launch of the Startup India program that happened sometime earlier this year. And this is an area on which there is a lot of emphasis in this government. We are also very happy to note that there is a lot of action which is happening and a lot of traction that we are seeing in this space. And towards that end, we thought that we'll hold this seminar. We've called, as part of our distinguished panelists, a number of speakers who represent different aspects of this entire startup ecosystem. They represent the different stakeholders involved in the startup area. And it would be our endeavor to share with you some of our thoughts on different aspects of the startup system. We are also happy to have with us a very distinguished international participant, Senator Auburn Hill from Jamaica. Welcome to you, sir. I'm happy that you could spare some time and join us in this discussion forum. I don't have a very long presentation. I just thought I'll start the ball rolling by a few kind of introductory slides and then hand over to my distinguished panelists to take it forward. What we could do is that we'll have brief presentations, maybe extempore or supported by PowerPoints for about 10 minutes each, and thereafter we could have a round of questions. So we have 8 speakers. We could do about 10 minutes each, 80 minutes, and about 20-25 minutes of question and answers, followed by a tea break, a tea get together. So is my presentation loaded? So can we have my presentation on? So just a few introductory slides. What is the startup ecosystem in India? What is a startup? As you all know, the definition of startup has been provided by the government. The Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion is coordinating this program. Basically, a startup is a company which has come up within the last 5 years. It has a turnover which does not exceed 25 crores, and it works on innovation. What are the stages of a startup life cycle? Again, there's a pre-startup phase, there's a startup phase, and there's a growth phase. What are the financing life cycle of a startup? As a startup moves from a concept stage to a startup phase to a growth and then subsequent expansion phase, the funding also moves from initial grants, from initial support by angel investors to seed funding, and thereafter venture funding. And then if the startup becomes a kind of established company, it is in a position to tap public markets also. So that's how the typical life cycle of a startup exists as it goes along from beginning to a matured company stage where it can get listed on a stock exchange. Interestingly, we are seeing very, very good growth and traction, as I said, in this ecosystem in India. We are one of the fastest growing startup economies in the world. We are one of the fastest growing large economies in the world. There's no other large economy growing at 7 to 8% globally. We have about 10,000 startups already in our country, and in the last year itself we have added about 1,400-1,500 startups, so which is something like about 3 to 4 startups almost every day coming up. Most of our startups, as you would see, are in the technology sector, and within the technology sector, most of the startups again focus on the IT domain. As we all know, IT is a foremost economy sector in our country. Our IT turnover itself crosses $130 billion, and our IT exports are in the range of $108 billion during the last year, 2015-16. So IT continues to be our strong point, and it is not surprising that we are having a very good number of startups in this domain. If I look at some of the interesting facts and figures, we are today the third largest startup hub in the world. The average age of entrepreneurs in this who are setting up these startups is about 28 years. As I said, we are having about close to 1,500 startups every year. And it may be of interest to some, and particularly one of the panelists who's representing women entrepreneurs. 50% of the share is coming in from female entrepreneurs. So that's kind of interesting spread that we are seeing. Across the world, we see, if you look at figures, the startup activity is concentrated, of course, traditionally in the US. The Silicon Valley is well known. Our own Silicon Valley is, of course, in Bangalore. And then there's a lot of startup activity in China, in India now, and Israel and Singapore have also had a number of startups. What are we doing in our ministry to support the startup ecosystem? Many of you would know, we have had this program called the Technology Incubation and Development of Entrepreneurs program scheme, which has been there for quite some time. We have provided seed capital to as many as about 170 startups. This has been a program which has been pretty popular with the startups as well as the academic institutions. Of late, in fact, a very interesting development is this fund called Electronics Development Fund. For the first time ever, we are seeing the governments are entering into risk capital. In fact, governments have always been generally providing grant in aid or have been providing loans. This is the first time that we are seeing governments of the day are entering into venture capital. So this is a very encouraging sign. And the government has, on 15th of February this year, launched the Electronic Development Fund. We've made some initial in-principle commitments as well as final commitments. So we hope to take this forward in a bigger way as we go forward. We have also in our ministry been providing support for filing of international patents in the electronics and IT space. So that is another way that we try and assist startups, because the process of filing for patents as well as the cost involved is in fact quite onerous, and we have been trying to support them. We have also set up an Electropreneur Park. An Electropreneur Park basically is a combination of electronics and entrepreneurship. So we have set up this park in the Delhi University campus. In fact, if outside, as you would have come in, you might have noticed that the Electropreneur Park has set up a number of stalls. Some of the incubatees have displayed their products, and I would urge you to kind of interact with them, see them, meet them, encourage them, and maybe there may be some good ideas that you can learn from them as well as they can learn from your advice. We have set up a consumer electronics incubator at IIT Cochin, IIIT Cochin, and an incubation center at IIT Patna. So we have been funding these projects entirely from our sources. And it's our endeavor that we would be happy to support any such initiatives that are coming in from academic institutions as well as the industry. So I just thought I'll set the kind of tone by giving you some facts and figures about what our ministry is doing, what is the focus of the government on in this area. And with that, I would request all the panelists to come in and share their views and comments on various aspects of this startup life cycle. Thank you so much for joining us again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiv Bansal. And we are very pleased to have amongst us His Excellency Mr. Aubin Hill, Senior Advisor to Prime Minister of Jamaica. We extend a very warm welcome to you, sir. And I would like to request Mr. Rajiv Bansal to kindly present a bouquet of flowers to His Excellency Mr. Aubin Hill. Mrs. Geeta Katparia, I would like to request you as well to present a bouquet of flowers to Mr. Rajiv Bansal. First of all, our first speaker, I would like to invite, before he comes here, I would like to say something about him as well. Mr. Arvind Thakur is CEO and Joint Managing Director of NIIT Technologies Limited, a global IT solutions and business services organization. Mr. Thakur has led the business to the category top providers और आपको prestigious Golden Gold Steve Award से भी नवाजा गया है Executive of the Year के बतौर, and he'll talk about startups, the next digital revolution. I would like to invite him now. Kindly join us here.
Good afternoon. So I'm going to pick up where Mr. Rajiv Bansal left us off with some statistics around startups. But I think just to put it in context, I think what we need to understand is that Digital India per se is a program by the government which essentially enables the country to drive inclusive growth. And it's the infrastructure which is getting created through that program which is enabling us to spawn many startups. And that's the reason why, no wonder, we are seeing the technology industry and the technology space actually dominating the startups. So he talked about 10,000 startups, which have been spawned in the country. More than half of it is really 4,300. 43% of that actually is from the technology sector. This data is a little dated. I think it's about 4,700 now startups in the technology sector. And as he very aptly pointed out, the growth has been phenomenal. Just last year we added 1,400 startups, and India has emerged as the third largest destination for startups. So that's something that's great. What I want to talk about is what is happening in the startup place, where is it happening, why is it happening, what should be happening, and what should be the way forward in this area. Now, if you look at some of the startups which have happened before this program really picked momentum, you see people like Vijay Shekhar of Paytm, Bhavish Agarwal of Ola, Rajesh Agarwal of Oya, and the Bansals of Flipkart, and these people are really rock stars of the startup world. They've actually created organizations which are unicorns. All right, unicorns are companies which have a market cap of $1 billion. Extremely successful. I think we're also seeing women entrepreneurs moving into startups. An old colleague of mine, Meena Ganesh, is a very successful investor and startup serial entrepreneur, and her venture, Portia, is one of the very successful startups in the healthcare space. So we're seeing people from all walks of life taking advantage of the environment and creating organizations, which are great organizations. What is interesting to see is with the development of the digital infrastructure in the country, startups are now beginning to address decades-old problems that the country has been facing. So whether it is solving the energy problem or providing quality education or improving health access, making India cashless, which is so important, at least in today's context, we are seeing a whole host of new startups, whether it's Altizon, Byju, MedPrime, and a whole host of these names, which all of you may not be very familiar about, but providing that valuable service which is enabling the country to address some of its biggest problems. So I think that is one big value which startups are providing. And so if you look at the entire landscape, where we are seeing maximum activity in the technology space is around fintech, which is enabling India to transact easily, or health tech, which is helping India to deliver better health services, or edutech, which is basically providing quality education significantly in rural and semi-urban or semi-rural areas. So technology is being used by these new entrants, and you can see the numbers over here in terms of the number of startups that actually exist in each one of these spaces. 250 plus in fintech, 250 plus in health tech, 180 plus in edutech. So you can see these are three important areas where the country has been experiencing significant issues in the past that are now getting addressed by startups. Which technologies? That's also interesting because the core technologies which are driving innovation across the world are the areas where these startups are actually building strong capabilities on. So whether it's the cloud, big data, Internet of Things, machine learning, artificial intelligence, these are all emerging technologies which collectively are known as digital technologies which are transforming the world, and most of our startups are predominantly engaged in these areas and thereby building these capabilities. Who is making it happen? If you look at typically what is the demographic profile of people who have founded companies, as you can see from this chart over here, very young. And so the demographic profile of the country actually provides us with a very favorable factor for building businesses and identifying opportunities in this area. So the median age of startup founders is typically little over 30 years. So the young population of India is what is driving this growth. But what is really interesting is the fact that academic institutions are putting together incubators that are harnessing the ability of students to be able to actually create their own startups. I know of at least 2 students in a university that we run, which is the NIT University. It's a big campus in between Delhi and Jaipur in a place called Neemrana, where 2 students, one of them, his name is Anand Krishna. He actually started a startup in the area of providing security services. This is cyber security services. And there was a competition which was held in China where 300 universities across Asia participated. And this student actually won that competition. He won that competition, started his startup, and today he has a thriving business before he graduated as a Bachelor of Technology in Computer Science. There's another student who actually has a factory and a facility in Okhla, and he's manufacturing drones which he supplies for surveillance. So we are seeing that the student community itself is taking advantage of the opportunities that we are seeing in this country to be able to create their own businesses. In fact, Atif Khan, he has this company called AT Lead who builds his drones. He came for his convocation ceremony with 50 of his employees. He employed 50 people even before he graduated from the university. So these are very interesting stories, which basically gives us a very good feeling about the future of the country. Now, why is this happening? Why is this startup revolution happening? As I mentioned, firstly, because of the favorable demographics. Secondly, the ecosystem is now mature. So you have incubators, you have accelerators, you have academic institutions setting up incubation centers. Of course, the fact that we have a young population who are naturally digital savvy and the internet penetration is increasing dramatically in the country also supports this whole ecosystem. And last but not the least, as Rajiv Bansal pointed out, the government is supporting this initiative through various means, as he had outlined in his presentation. So all in all, I think the story has just begun, because what is going to happen is something phenomenal. If you look at, for example, digital payments, currently about 1.5 billion transactions happen in the country. It's expected to rise up to 12 billion in 3 years. So you can see whatever is happening right now is just only going to scale. Or if you look at Aadhaar and verifiable identity, currently you would see a share of maybe 50%. That's going to increase to 100%. So whatever is happening right now in the startup world is only going to expand and increase. So what is the way forward to facilitate this process? Well, continue with the effort in terms of putting together innovation clusters. So we are seeing different parts of the country creating clusters of innovation where startup activity is happening. So you have Bangalore, Delhi and Mumbai. When I say Delhi, I mean NCR. They actually are leading as clusters of innovation. Bangalore being the most significant with about 1,300 startups, followed by Delhi with about 1,100 and Mumbai at about 800. But there are also emerging clusters like Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai, which are also emerging as startup clusters. So, the ecosystem is supporting that. We need to focus on our capabilities. These new emerging technologies which I talked about, we need talent. And so therefore our education system, both formal and informal, needs to be geared up to be able to support startups to drive that. Currently, e-commerce in this country actually garners the largest share of talent. Almost 65% of technical talent in the startup space is garnered by the e-commerce segment. Entrepreneurship, basically channelizing the appropriate funding for entrepreneurs. There are some incentives again which the government is providing to support that. I think that's also extremely welcome. Branding, I think this is one thing which is somewhat neglected. Most of us, when we are building our businesses or having a new innovative idea, we focus a lot on the engineering and the technology. But actually, what really makes the difference is your ability to communicate that capability and create a brand. So not only do we need to create the brand for your company, but also we need to work collectively as a nation to position India as an innovation hub for the world. And last but not the least, regulation. I think any support from the government in ease of doing business. I think one of the issues which startups really face is it's difficult to incorporate a company. It's even more difficult to close down a company. And so very often we find startups who would have loved to start an activity in, let's say, one of the innovation hubs in India, Bangalore, may prefer to go down to Singapore because you don't face these kind of problems over there. So ease of doing business, access to funding, and of course anybody who's investing in a startup is creating value, would like the intellectual property to be protected. So regulations around that to support that would be extremely beneficial. So I'll leave with those words and look forward to a healthy and nice discussion during the seminar. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to have amongst us His Excellency Mr. Aubin Hill. His Excellency Mr. Aubin Hill has over 35 years working experience in the private sector. In early 80s, he led a startup team to open a branch of American Express International Banking Corporation in Sri Lanka. The success there led to promotion to MX Bank in Bahrain. Prior to his work in Sri Lanka, His Excellency Mr. Hill had worked with MX Bank in New York, Rome and Mumbai. His Excellency Mr. Senator Obim Hill has been appointed Special Investment Ambassador to India with responsibility to facilitate economic, commercial and social ties with the country. Now may I request His Excellency Mr. Hill to kindly share his valuable thoughts with all of us.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me share in Digital India, which I learned I'll be participating in a few hours ago, but I'm very, very, very pleased to be here. I represent my Prime Minister, who is 44 years old, very young, became Prime Minister in February. I chaired his Economic Advisory Council while he was leader of the opposition, and therefore came into government with him. I'm here today for a number of reasons, for government-to-government activities, but really and truly a major part concerns Digital India. This morning I spent time with UIDAI and your Aadhaar system. I'm amazed. I mean, I studied that before I came here. 1 billion people on a biometric system of identification, which is voluntary for the most part and has been tested through your court system right up to the Supreme Court. Your privacy is protected. The Aadhaar people are very clear about protecting that. And frankly, coming from the private sector where I worked all my life, that's an amazing government startup. We're talking about startups today. You want to see a big startup? Look at Aadhaar. You have 340 million banking accounts being supported by Aadhaar. Do you understand what that means in the terms of the world? I see that you have 10,000 startups a year. Britain has 10,000. Canada has 6,000. Mr. Bansal, thank you for your data. The United States is running at 83,000, so you know where they're running. But why I'm here? We are a country of about 2,700 people. We're looking at flyovers for roads. We're looking at medical supplies. We're looking at a number of things which India and us can work with. Your companies, our needs, financial support, financial spending. But to step back, a startup some years ago, in 2002, I ran the biggest bank in Jamaica, the National Commercial Bank. We invested about $50 to $60 million in taking the Finacle system from Infosys. Infosys was little more than a startup at that time. Now, so well established, many people have become rich out of Infosys, but that too was a startup at that time. We were at the forefront in Jamaica looking at Indian technology. We're still looking at it today. I look at the young people walking in here, droves of them, all over the place. Some of them look like kids. At least 50% of your startup are from women. Mr. Ambedkar would be very proud when he put that clause in the Constitution that make women equal to men, long before the United States and the others talk about women being equal. 50% of your startups today are from women. We're here in Jamaica to look at not just the old technology that we have to help build a country, but especially your IT system. We want that ID system that you have. We want to digitize our country, and we want Indians to help us to work to do it. We're not going anywhere else. So I'm sending out the invitation. Now, I'm here, government to government, but you know I'm from the private sector. I want private sector people to respond to the Indian government and say, we want to go to Jamaica to help them do this. Why do I invite you? We're 1 hour and 10 minutes flight from the United States. We are exceptionally near shore. It's still the biggest market by far. We speak English like you hear me speaking it. We have a court system that is similar to yours, very open, very transparent, common law based in the English law. And our judges are just as independent as yours. No politician ever dare tell them any crap. They don't bother with that. They make their ruling based on the law. The politicians want to change it, change the law. I like that system. We invite you to like it in Jamaica. It's a very nice place to live. We have lots of Indians there, but we want some more. We want some more who are young, who are willing to invest. I just came back from the Philippines, as you see, as I'm now an ambassador to bring investment in the country. Came back from the Philippines. A certain development in that country has made Jamaica very attractive to some BPO suppliers. So we're looking to that, and many Indians are the ones involved in it. We're inviting India to make sure you come to Jamaica and invest with us. But as we look at that, and as we look at Digital India, I also look at the bigger picture. The reason why I encourage my Prime Minister to make sure we build a much stronger relationship with India is because of what I believe I will call enlightened self-interest. I look down the road. By 2050, according to Citibank, you're going to have the biggest economy in the world, estimated at about $85 trillion. Maybe 1.65 billion people, by far the largest population. China's population is aging. They're going to have much less than you. Their GDP at that time will be about 62 trillion. America will be 38.4 trillion by estimate. In other words, India rules. Between here and there are lots of things you have to do. There's no guarantee. But you have a young population, a more and more educated population, a population where women and men can innovate and invest, and therefore you get a broader group. You can smile, it's all right. Broader group of investors across the spectrum. And then you have countries like Jamaica, those in Eastern Europe, those in Africa, frankly, those in Europe. You look at Russia. Russia has tremendous innovation, but they can't market a bread. That's not what they do. Their culture is not marketing. Indians know how to market. Indians have a good relationship with Russia. There's a huge economic interland there. But before you get there, come to the Caribbean. I am so happy to be involved in Digital India. We're looking to India to help us grow our economy. We can't grow unless we digitize the government. We want that national ID, and for you to help us digitize the government. All the government. Healthcare, education, payments to people, banking, the whole thing. You're welcome to Jamaica. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir, for your very inspiring and impressive address. We have Mr. Ganapathy Venugopal. He is the co-founder and CEO of Exceler Ventures, which is a platform for supporting innovation and entrepreneurship. Mr. Venugopal has long experience in the area of strategy, finance, and consulting. May I request? And he'll be talking about startup cycle. So now I invite here Mr. Ganapathy Venugopal.
Very good afternoon to everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you to Ms. Katpalia and Mr. Bansal for having invited me. There's a lot of talk about startups. So clearly we live in very exciting times, right? Especially when we look at the activity in the startup space. Two speakers before me gave you all the statistics. We are now the second largest tech startup ecosystem in the world, fastest growing. I'll talk about this data later, but I think in terms of the new number of startups coming up, India is 1.6 times even that of US, right? We have the youngest set of entrepreneurs. The median age is quite low. And some of the problems that ails any nascent ecosystem, right? especially in the startup context, all that is behind us. We have more and more youngsters wanting to be entrepreneurs. It's a genuine career choice. The stigma associated with failure is not as high as it was before. There is enough and more capital that's available, both domestic as well as global. And we have reached all of this in very quick time, right? Startup must not have been a very popular word 5 years back. Today we talk about all of this. So we have done in about 5 years what has taken a few decades for the other countries, right? So there are a number of things to be celebrated, and that's good news, right? But I thought I'll share with you something that could be better news, right? And my thesis is that, and I personally think that the next 5 years is going to be even more exciting. If you thought the last 5 years was exciting from a startup perspective, next 5 years is going to be even more, and I'll explain why. What we have largely seen till now is, for those of you who are familiar with systems, right? What we have seen till now is largely the first order effects, right? For a new system that's coming up, the first order effects are typically characterized by high growth, a lot of concentrated activity, very little diversity, right? And that's what we have seen in the startup space. Most of the growth that we have seen is restricted to a few sectors, mostly retail and consumer internet. It has perhaps affected the top 20% of the population and has not really touched the remaining 80%. The most important problem that is being solved is essentially organizing the unorganized. So some of the unicorns that we see today are people who have solved this particular problem in different contexts and different verticals, offering mostly benefits of convenience and cost. And most of the growth we have seen is by changing the offline behavior into online for the 20% of the population that has access to technology. We have not seen, with respect to the opportunity that is available, any new demand that is being created or new global or uniquely Indian problems being solved, right? If you actually look at the problem space, there are a number of sectors where the problems are really large: healthcare, education, financial inclusion, agriculture, energy, right? And the list is quite long. If you look at the level of startup activity and whether the spirit of enterprise has really touched any of these sectors, the answer is no. So there are big problems in these areas, yet not solved. So coming back to my thesis on why I believe the next 5 years is going to be better than the last 5 years, I think we will start seeing the second order effects kicking in, right? And what does that mean? We will perhaps see high growth, but the characteristics of the growth will be very different. At Axelor, we run accelerator programs, so we work with startups in the very early stages. So the sheer diversity of the startups that are now coming up is much more than what it used to be before. We will have a lot of startups focusing on local problems, and much of that change is driven by access to technology and the opportunities that it throws up, right? And what we are talking in terms of digital India and what it does to the people in terms of access to technology. There are a number of examples. In many such cases, I think we have made such tremendous progress in a very short span of time. I was listening to Nandan sometime back in Bangalore when he was addressing a large group, and he was saying, and Rajan Anandan from Google was there, and he was saying that Aadhaar has crossed 1 billion users faster than perhaps Google's Android did, right? And that's a huge achievement. We have seen almost 4 times the number of bank accounts being opened in the last 2 years compared to the previous 63 years, right? More than 800 mobile connections, a lot of them restricted largely to voice-based services, and now slowly data is opening up. We have perhaps the cheapest data connectivity in the world, and the next 80% of the population is now slowly getting access to that. And we are talking about a single GST regime, which is going to simplify a lot of things, bring down the inefficiencies, and open out SMB as a huge growth engine available for entrepreneurs. So I do personally strongly believe that the second order effects will start kicking in. You can already see early signs of that. I was just looking at some data in terms of the number of startups coming up and how the data is different compared to US and India 12 months back and now. In the last 10 months, the total number of startups that have been started in India as per traction data is about 3,300. The same number for US is about 2,150, right? So that's almost 1.6 times the new number of startups that have come up in India, right? And I am beginning to see signs of specific sectors in which the number of startups coming up in India is almost equal to or exceeding, right? Obviously, in areas like retail and consumer internet, the number is very high, and that's how we have grown. But in new areas like healthcare, new areas like enterprise, I see the numbers slowly inching up, and that's all a good sign, right? And the opportunities that are truly digital India, the sheer opening of the market, the availability of connectivity which makes access very easy for business models to become quickly pervasive, is the opportunities that will open up will be quite immense. And as I said, I'm already seeing signs of many of these opportunities being taken up by entrepreneurs who are working. So, without taking much time, I'll just leave you with the thought that what you will see in the next 5 years will be far more exciting as you see the second order effects kicking in. And I conclude with the hope that entrepreneurs will rise up to the opportunities presented by Digital India. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Sarandeep Singh is the Chairman, CEO and Co-founder of Women Entrepreneurship and Empowerment Foundation. WEEF महिलाओं में जागरूकता की मशाल जलाता है कि वे अपने करियर की राह में उद्यमी बजाय पारंपरिक रोजगार के अवसर ढूंढने के. WEEF intends to focus and ignite fire amongst women to undertake entrepreneurship as a viable career. May I invite you, Mr. Sarandeep Singh?
All right. Good afternoon. Mr. Bansal, आपकी अनुमति हो तो मैं हिंदी में बात करना चाहूँगा. Mr. Hill is there, but I'll translate and just to make you all very comfortable, I can speak in English. I've stayed in US for 17 years. My English is perfect, but हिंदी से थोड़ा ज़्यादा प्यार है. हिंदी में बात करना चाहूँगा आप सबके साथ, if that is all right with you guys. Okay. So जैसे कि बहुत सारे स्पीकर्स ने बोला, ये जो कुछ साल हैं, ये सबसे ज़्यादा एक्साइटिंग क्यों है हम सब हिंदुस्तानियों के लिए? कुछ आइडिया किसी को? ये जो अगले 4 साल 5 साल आने वाले हैं, ये क्यों सबसे एक्साइटिंग होने वाले हैं हमारे लिए? पीछे वाले जो थोड़ा सा सोते सोते दिख रहे हैं वो वाले, एक तो पर एक बेचारा प्राइम मिनिस्टर किस किस के लिए काम करेगा? फ्रिज खराब हो जाता है तो प्राइम मिनिस्टर को ट्वीट कर देते हैं. अच्छा, प्राइम मिनिस्टर के लिए आप हैं सर. क्या नाम है आपका? सर मैं भेज रहा हूं सर आपका नाम वहां पे, बट गुड. ओके, बट कंट्री के लिए, इंडिया के लिए, व्हाई आर दीज 5 years, ये 5 साल अगले क्यों इतने इंपॉर्टेंट होने वाले? कुछ सोचा? यूथ इज कमिंग. जो सन 2000 में पैदा हुए हैं वो आ रहे हैं अगले 5 साल में 2021 से, और वो जो जिस तरह सोचते हैं वो आपके और हमारे पूरे का पूरा बदल देने वाले हैं. सोचने का तरीका, काम करने का तरीका. आज की डेट में जो सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग आपके और मेरे लिए है वो ये है कि जो लोग 1950 और 60 में पैदा हुए थे वो लोग रिटायर ही नहीं होना चाहते, वो और काम करना चाहते हैं. जो लोग 35, 36, 40 साल के हैं वो लोग कहते हैं 45 साल तक यार काम कर लूंगा, रिटायर होना है, मतलब बस इतना ही दे दो कि पैसा दे दो, घूमना फिरना है, जिंदगी इंजॉय करनी है. जो लोग 20-25 साल के हैं वो काम ही नहीं करना चाहते. 2 साल काम करूंगा, घूम कर आऊंगा, फिर वापस काम कर लूंगा. एक रिसर्च किया हम लोगों ने जहां पर जो लोग 1970 वगैरह में पैदा हुए थे वो अपने घरों को 21 साल की उम्र में छोड़ के चले जाते थे काम करने के लिए, क्योंकि माँ बाप ने वैल्यू दिया काम करो, पहले घर खरीदना, पहले अपने लिए सिक्योरिटी बनाना. आज की डेट में जो हमारा सर्वे कहता है कि 30 साल की उम्र तक बच्चे घर पे रहते हैं. क्यों? माँ बाप ने रोटी खिलानी है, खिला देंगे. हमारा क्या है, हम तो कुछ ना कुछ बना ही लेंगे, पापा आप चिंता ना करो. और एक टाइम था कि 22-23 साल की उम्र में लड़की की शादी करते थे. आज की डेट में लड़की जो है क्या बोलती है, पापा मेरी चिंता ना करो, मैं अपने आप को मैनेज कर लूंगी. सो हमारा प्रॉब्लम क्या है लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन कि 3 जनरेशन आपस में एक दूसरे से टकराने की कोशिश कर रही हैं. जो लोग 1950, आई मीन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू एवरीवन, सबके लिए सम्मान, जो लोग 1950-60 में पैदा हुए वो कहते हैं मेरे सामने कमरे में आके बैठ के मुझे समझाओ कि क्या हुआ. जो लोग 35-36 साल वाले हैं वो कहते हैं सर ईमेल भेज रहा हूं. जो 25 साल वाला है वो कहता है सर व्हाट्सएप भेज तो दिया था और क्या करूं। जो 20-25 साल वाला है वो अपने बॉस के सामने खड़े होकर बोलता है आज सर ये नहीं चलेगा, एंड बॉस कहता है यार हमने तो कभी अपने बॉस के सामने आज तक कभी मुंह ही नहीं खोला, ये कैसे हो रहा है। और हर जनरेशन दूसरी जनरेशन के लिए तैयार ही नहीं है। वो इसलिए भी तैयार नहीं है क्योंकि टेक्नोलॉजी एक ऐसी चीज है जिसने सब कुछ बदल दिया है। आज की डेट में एक गांव में रहने वाली महिला वो भी अपने किसी बच्चे से व्हाट्सएप पे बात कर लेती है, हिंदी में, मराठी में, बंगाली में। कस्टमाइज होता चला जा रहा है इंडिया। हां, प्राइम मिनिस्टर जरूर है नारायण जी, बट प्राइम मिनिस्टर अकेले सिर्फ उतना ही कर सकते हैं जितना, तो आप सबका और हमारा क्या कर्तव्य है आज की डेट में। आपने अभी अभी स्पीकर्स को देखा जो इन्होंने कुछ कंपनियां दिखाई, क्या देखा आप लोगों ने उसके अंदर? कुछ देखा आपने? जो ये कंपनीज दिखाई गई थी वो सारी की सारी आज की डेट में आदमी चला रहे हैं। विमेन एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप एंड एम्पावरमेंट फाउंडेशन जो वी फाउंडेशन है, और मैं आप सबको आमंत्रित करूंगा उसमें आने के लिए। एक ऐसी फाउंडेशन है, एक ऐसी छोटी सी पहल है जो हम कर रहे हैं जहां पर हर एक वो महिला जो सिर्फ अब तक थोड़ा कुछ करना चाहती थी अब से करेगी, अब से वो आगे बढ़ेगी। रोक सको तो रोक लो, सिर्फ इतनी सोच कि कुछ तो मैं करके दिखाऊंगी। और उनका जो नेक्स्ट यूनिकॉर्न सर अगले 5 साल में वी फाउंडेशन जो है, आप ही की साथ में हेल्प के साथ, हमारे वीसीज भी यहां बैठे हैं, बट यूनिकॉर्न जरूर निकाल के दिखाएंगे उसके अंदर से। क्योंकि जब शुरू किया था तब हमने सिर्फ एक 45 एक लेडीज के साथ शुरू किया था आईआईटी दिल्ली में ये वी फाउंडेशन। आज की डेट में कुछ ही समय के अंदर 6 कंट्रीज में चले गए हैं, वहां पे अपना कोर्स कर रहे हैं, फ्री प्रोग्राम्स दे रहे हैं लेडीज को ताकि करें। बट सक्सेस वहां नहीं है, सक्सेस रूरल इंडिया में भी है, ग्राम्स में है, जहां पर हमारा टारगेट है। और शायद जितने भी कमरे इस कमरे में लोग बैठे हैं, आप भी इधर उधर भी, हमारा टारगेट 100 करोड़ औरतों तक पहुंचना है 100 देशों के अंदर अगले 4 साल में, डिजिटल रेवोल्यूशन के साथ, जहां पर टेक्नोलॉजी वाले स्टार्टअप्स भी होंगे। कुछ हमारे स्टार्टअप्स यहां पर आके बैठे हुए हैं, वहां पर वो कनुप्रिया बैठी हैं जो अपना एक ऐसा बीज का एक ऐसा कोऑपरेटिव बना रही हैं, बी प्रोडक्ट्स का, जहां पर वो 1000 विलेजेस में अपना प्रोडक्ट साथ में लेकर जा रही हैं और ग्रामीण महिलाओं को रोजगार देने की बात कर रही हैं। सो शी इज कैरिंग हर सैंपल्स, वो साथ में लेकर आती हैं। अगर आपको देखना हो तो उनसे देखिए कि वो कैसे बदलने की कोशिश कर रही है। आपको भी हमारे साथ जुड़ना है क्योंकि द नेक्स्ट रेवोल्यूशन, जो अगली क्रांति आएगी, वो इस देश में, नारायण जी अगेन सिर्फ आप ही का नाम पता है मेरे को वहां पे, बट नॉट टू सिंगल आउट, बट अगली क्रांति आदमियों से नहीं, महिलाओं से आने वाली है। एक डेटा हमने देखा जहां पर 50% था, बट मेरे अनुमान में असली डेटा जो है हिंदुस्तान में सिर्फ 7 या 8% महिलाएं हैं जो इस वक्त काम कर रही हैं। बहुत लोग उनको बोलते हैं मत करो, बहुत लोग उनको ये भी कहते हैं अभी तुम क्या करोगी, अभी तो तुम रहने दो, किसी और का काम है। मेरी आप सबसे यही इल्तिजा है, यही रिक्वेस्ट है, ऑल द लेडीज इन द रूम, सारी महिलाओं को, उठें, जागें, vfoundation.org पे जाएं, अपने आप को रजिस्टर करें। आपके पास छोटा आइडिया है तो उसको बड़ा बनाने की जिम्मेवारी हमारी, आपके पास बड़ा आइडिया है तो उसको काम करने की हमारी जिम्मेवारी, अगर आपके पास काम चलता हुआ आइडिया है तो उसको और आगे ले जाने की हमारी जिम्मेवारी। साथ जुड़िए, मेक इन इंडिया, डिजिटल इंडिया। जय हिंद।
महिलाओं के लिए बहुत अच्छी बात कही, उसी के बारे में ही मैं कहना चाहूँगी, बीइंग अ लेडी माई सेल्फ, कि वो भी क्या दिन थे ढूंढती फिरती थी मंजिल को मैं, वो भी क्या दिन थे ढूंढती फिरती थी मंजिल को मैं, ढूंढती फिरती है आज मंजिल खुद मुझे। Mr. Nakul Saxena from ISPERT, who has a rich professional experience in the airline banking and policy advocacy with focus on corporate sales and wealth management. आप मेड इन इंडिया सॉफ्टवेयर प्रोडक्ट्स को सपोर्ट करते हैं और अब एंड he'll talk about business opportunities for startups, financial landscaping. I would like to request Mr. Nakul Saxena to kindly express his views.
Thank you. And very good afternoon to everybody over here. We've been talking, the panelists have been talking about Startup India and startup opportunities available. So I want to cover through my presentation what you as startups can take advantage of today using public services and build your companies. Okay. I guess I'm not getting a hang of this. Okay, thank you. So what is happening is, world over, in the last few years, we've seen a lot of startups being created in India. But those startups have typically been using a lot of the Western ideas, Western models to work in India. And I'm here today to show you what are the further opportunities available. Now, if Edison came back 125 years after he made power generators, he would probably recognize the current generation system. It has not changed so much. But if Graham Bell were to come back and see what he made, a phone, and now the new phones which he has, would he recognize that? I don't think so. Because in the last 125 years, a unique thing has been happening. And that is that because thin layers of various forms of innovation have come together to form today's mobile system. A classic example of that has been Uber. If you did not have Google, Android, GPS, today Uber wouldn't have been there. And that is the classic example of layered innovation coming together to give opportunities to many people to form their startups. Why has this happened and how has this been possible in India specifically? Already the new government has put in motion many things. One of them has been the Jan Dhan accounts, which the Honorable Prime Minister has ensured that the unbanked is able to bank. The second is Aadhaar. Many a times we Indians underplay the role which Aadhaar is going to play in the coming 5 to 10 years. Aadhaar has reached 1 billion users in less than 5.5 years. It is the fastest entity to reach that number ever across all platforms. There are only 7 companies in the world which have over 1 billion users. And this is the only entity which is government owned. And that is a major important aspect of Aadhaar. Third aspect is mobile. With over 300,000 smartphones being shipped to India today on a quarterly basis, the gap between feature phones and smartphones is vanishing. And today we will have a lot more smartphones coming into the country for the next 5 to 10 years. So what this is today is using basic Aadhaar authentication as a base mechanism. We call this as the India stack. Today, identity answer is there using Aadhaar. On top of Aadhaar, a second layer of Aadhaar eKYC is added, which is paperless, instantaneous. Second aspect is eSign. The Government of India has released eSign and DigiLockers. Recently released DigiLocker enables you not to carry your driving license, but just to store it in the DigiLocker, a huge step. Third aspect is the new payment systems, be it Aadhaar-enabled NPCI, UPI, which has already been built. Fourth, which is also getting constructed, is the consent layer, so that your privacy of data is looked after. What is going to happen is, we as a nation will go from being data poor to data rich in the next 5 years. And it is up to all the startups present over here to take advantage of that. So what does the future of startups look like using this basic JAM Trinity and the India stack? So I will cover very quickly 4 brief use cases which startups today can use based on Aadhaar to build their platforms. What is also happening is today that Indian startups which have concentrated on used ideas like an Amazon or Flipkart, the companies are doing well, but these are copycat ideas which are prevalent today. It is time for India to start concentrating on ideas which are based for India and more specifically rural India, and I call that Bharat startups. So my first use case is providing credit without any friction. So let me try and explain this to you, what happens. Today, a thelewala, and in this case I'll call her Rajni, does not get loan from anywhere. So the person borrows from a normal money lender at a daily interest rate of 5%, buys the vegetables, buys the goods, sells it. At the end of the day, use the proceeds of that to pay off the money lender, and then whatever is left, that money is with that particular person. Now imagine an environment where today the customers with the lowest default rates are given the highest interest rates. This is typical credit inversion happening. How do we solve for this? So what I call this is the 7-step process for Rajni, and I'm naming her Rajni over here, to get a small intraday loan. So how this typically works is that she requires loan, she has a smartphone with her, dealing in a lot of generation of data while paying off mobile bills or prepaid, postpaid, paying her electricity bills, her water bills, seeing the various loan offers through a marketplace, adding the fact, after seeing the loan offers, she takes the best offer available to her, receives the loan, does the entire process digitally, and at the end of the day, repays the loan. So this particular component is built on various factors of the JAM and the India stack, which is using of a consent architecture to share the data, a credit marketplace based on APIs being generated. Second, you completely paperless, using Aadhaar eKYC as a mechanism to authenticate that individual, and then to further transact, put the money in the bank, to sign the loan document, e-sign, and put the money in the bank through UPI. Now, how many of you feel this is science fiction? And please be blunt. How many of you think this is science fiction? I'd like to run a small video and show that to you. So we did a pilot with a particular company, Capital Floats and Echo Financial, where what we did was, these are typically Kirana store people having a lot of digital trail available through them, because people come to them and transfer the money through cash via wallets to their hometowns. So this is a particular lending company, Capital Floats. The individual asks for a loan, say 10,000, 70,000, right? Shares his or her digital data, giving consent, does the Aadhaar eKYC to show that this person is Nakul or XYZ, then gets an OTP, verification happens. Loan is offered through a e-marketplace. She gives her bank's account details, completely IFSC code, NEFT details. This is an actual video. OTP sent to accommodate that transaction. She gets the loan of 30,000. This is a loan document signed via e-sign, completely online. And the loan is dispersed. Happening, the details of the loan are there, and through UPI, the money is then taken out. So can you tell me, so this is what we've done 6 months back. Just to let you know, more than 650 loans have been dispersed in a maximum time of 8 minutes using a mobile phone. There are startups which are trying to address this situation. This is one major opportunity which is there. So what is happening is that millions of borrowers start accepting Paytm money, start accepting money through various other means, through other wallets, create a digital trail. And that, shared with the credit marketplaces, they offer them loans through the lenders. And that's how actual Bharat gets impacted. So that's one use case scenario for you. Yeah, so the various lenders are using their own algorithms to do the credit, and because this loan is typically a day basis loan, so depending on, suppose I'm prepaying for my mobile, say 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees on every week, they know that Nakul has enough money coming in for prepaying for my mobile 1,000 rupees a week. So maybe a 2,000 rupee loan I can lend him for that particular day. So this has been done, and the default rates are 0. Though, yes, it's very early in the system, it's only 6 months. but we already beta testing this. The other game changer is GST. Now, why GST is such a big game changer, I'll try and explain that to you. What is happening is, for the first time when GST comes live, there will be 3 to 5 billion transactions happening on a monthly basis digitally. So you as a startup, using consent and using the network of APIs available with NPCI, can build platforms for the trader to stock his inventory, manage his inventory, to do his accounting, to link with his existing accounting software. That is the amount of opportunity available to use the GSTN network. Third aspect is very close to what has happened in the last 4 to 5 days, where the Honorable Prime Minister has done a very bold move, and there lies the opportunity. Today, 30 to 35% of savings in the rural India or even India was done through chit funds. People investing in chit funds. That is out. So what do startups do about it? So I'm sure all of you have heard of mutual funds. Unfortunately, in India, only 9% of the retail sector, 9% of the GDP is invested into mutual funds. Countries like the US, that is high as 54%. So we've got a long way to go. How does that happen? How does that happen? What is stopping the intermediaries to reach out to rural India? The reason is the cost of transaction. So today, I'll take a brief moment and explain this to you. For an intermediary to acquire a client in, say, Jamshedpur, the cost of acquisition is 1,500 rupees. So now when the cost of acquisition is 1,500 rupees, when I'm earning 50 basis points, the minimum ticket check which I will take from somebody will only be 3 lakh rupees. Less than that, it's not profitable for me as an intermediary to go and talk to anybody. When that happens, what happens is I am only accessing about 3 million households. If we are able to reduce the cost of transaction from that 1,500 rupees to 100 rupees per transaction, we get 31 million households on board. And how is this happening? Again, 8 months back, the chairman of SEBI, Mr. UK Sinha, allowed Aadhaar KYC to happen. And that has spawned, I'll come to the stage of how many startups have come because of that. Because of that, today you can invest in a mutual fund online using Aadhaar KYC, paperless completely. It's already happening. There were 3 startups only addressing the situation 8 months back. Today, there are 67 startups addressing this space today in a span of 6 to 8 months. That's the impact of alternative investments. Fourth, what we can do is UPI. How many of you have heard of UPI? Okay. Just to make you understand, very simple in layman terms is UPI enables you to transfer funds using somebody else's mobile number and just transfer it to the particular mobile number without sharing your bank account details. And why is this path breaking and dynamic? It is so because what tends to happen is, using Aadhaar KYC, the authentication of the individual happens. Okay? I am able to, if I need money from Ms. Katwalia, I don't need to take her account number. I have got a mobile number, I transfer the funds directly through my mobile. She's already registered her mobile number with an account. You can have 1 account or you can have 10 accounts. Depending on the primary account you hold, you can transfer funds from there easily. And it takes literally less than 1 minute to transfer and receive funds. And the best part is the next phase will be, if your account has been seeded with your Aadhaar number, you can just share your Aadhaar number and automatically money will get transferred. That is the impact of UPI. And with the current situation, I would urge all of you to download the various UPI apps available through the banks. These are about 45, 50 of them which could come on this particular screen, which are already there and all happened in the last 6 months. It's not happened before. You can transfer funds instantaneously using a person's mobile number. And that is the advantage of the 4 streams which I just spoke to you about. We are at a tipping point where for the last 20, 30, 50 years, we've been told by the West as to what's good for us. We are at a position now where if we focus on building products, software for the rural market, or I call that Bharat startups, we will start addressing the needs of the 6 to 7 to 8 billion people world over if we do it well in India. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Siddharth Das is a general partner in Venture East and holds experience in IT and venture investment into IT. आप रिसर्चर भी रह चुके हैं और रहे हैं 5 US पेटेंट्स भी आपके हिस्से में हैं. आप साउथ एशिया में इंटेल कैपिटल में बतौर हेड भी अपनी सेवाएं दे चुके हैं और आप बात करेंगे फंडिंग ऑप्शंस फॉर स्टार्टअप्स. May I invite you?
So good afternoon. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Electronics and IT, I think, for inviting me to this event and in presenting a theme to me which is, I think, very relevant for our times. I would also like to say that, Mr. Bansal, that Bansal and startups are synonymous in today's world. So we are always looking for entrepreneurs who have So where do I start? I think being the last speaker, it's always tempting to kind of synthesize everyone else's talk, and the audience is also tired, so they don't notice. But broadly, what I'm going to do is, give you some trends. I think some of the speakers, and especially fascinating talk by Nakul, have gone into details on some of these. You can call them kind of revolution or experiments at this stage in terms of startup innovation. I started my digital journey almost many years ago with an Apple PC. Some of you may not have been born at that time, but it was a very exciting time to be working on an Apple. And I remember the buzzwords at that time was just TrueFont and desktop publishing. Those were the only two things that excited everyone. And clearly, I couldn't have imagined that in the period since then that such a transformation would have occurred in terms of the information and digital age, in terms of our lives, the transformational aspects in our lives. And so what I want to point out is some of the trends today. If, there is a famous person who's like the internet guru, who's Mary Meeker of Kleiner Perkins, who brings out a report every year, which is the Mary Meeker report. And one of the things that struck me was that, this was something that was intuitively obvious to all of us, that, what happens in a digital revolution is that it's almost like a power law. Every time, every cycle creates almost 10x growth in the number of devices that we use compared to the previous cycle. So you can go from mainframes to mini frames to desktops to laptops to feature phones to smartphones and so on and so forth. So what she predicted was that today's kind of mobile internet phase, which we are in now, is going to create a demand for more than 10 billion, perhaps much more than 10 billion devices. And devices means an assortment of, smartphones, tablets, your MP3 players, your entertainment appliances, your digital cameras, etc. So, it's mind-boggling when you hear numbers which are tens of billions. But that's where we are today. So in terms of what is the digital revolution, what has it meant for India? And I think over the last decade, you've noticed that clearly we are hitting the global headlines on many of these, the revolution that is happening in this country. We are the number 2 smartphone markets in the world now, right after China. We are I think it's roughly about 300 million smartphones, And then we are roughly about the second largest in terms of internet users, about 450 million. I think this data is all picked from TRI, I think June 2016, that's where. And the second largest Facebook users, that's a surprise, but most of us already knew it, at 150 million after the US. So clearly it is a revolution that is happening here. So what does the future hold for us? I think I will broadly, in the interest of time, and I know that you would be tired listening to the last speakers, so I will just highlight, at least from our side, 4 trends that we are seeing in the market. One is clearly the smartphone revolution and the mobile internet. We are the Android hub of the world. We haven't been officially declared the Android hub, but 80% of the phones in India, I think one of the largest percentages possibly, are Android phones. And so if you look at the explosion of kind of mobile apps developers, and a lot of these apps are going to be developed around the Android, although most of the apps developers also work with the iOS. But clearly that is a big opportunity, you know, when you have Android, the number of Android phones that are going to be in India. We have actually invested in a company. It's a company that came out of IIT Bombay. It's called Indus OS, and they are the largest regional kind of operating system, which is integrated with the Android OS. And what they have done is they have essentially got 12 languages right now. And the goal is really to connect the next billion people in emerging markets to the internet. And so the company is called Indus OS, and it's started by 2 IIT Bombay entrepreneurs. Then the next trend we really see, and some of the other speakers have alluded to this, which is you know, the expansion of organized retail, what we call modern retail today. The percentages are going up, and modern retail or organized retail is expected to grow at twice the rate of the unorganized sector. And clearly technology has played a role here. So while retail is roughly expected to grow from about 600 billion to about 1.2 trillion, roughly in about 5 years, I think the rate of growth of organized retail is going to be much faster. And what that means is that there's going to be a higher penetration of essentially digital transactions by way of credit cards, debit cards, and so on. We invested in a company a few years ago, which was in the one of the largest customer loyalty rewards programs they were running, and they had about 21 banks. A lot of them were PSU banks that were signed up, mostly on the debit side. But the whole idea is that you know, organized retail is certainly going to drive that debit card, credit card penetration to much higher levels. In fact, this company, which is called Loyalty Rewards, interestingly, was acquired by BillDesk. And today they do roughly about 65 million transactions in a month. So that's a large number, but you can imagine how much is the headroom in terms of growth. So that we see as a big area. It falls in the probably intersection of both digital brands and financial technology. And then the third area is, you know, if anyone is in Bangalore and perhaps even in Delhi, I haven't been to Delhi too often, but everyone's talking about analytics, everyone's talking about AI, everyone's talking about machine language, natural language processing. So there's pretty much analytics is everywhere, you know. And my question is, you know, you see a lot of analytics company, but you know, we have been waiting for almost 30 years for artificial intelligence. So hopefully some of that will translate into artificial intelligence kind of engines, what we truly artificial intelligence engines. So I think this is an area that is going to interest us, because if you look at what can analytics do, analytics has applications almost, you know, it's a banal statement to say that analytics will be used everywhere. But if you look at retail today, one of the big crises in modern retail, online retail, is that they're still trying to figure out what is the competitive kind of advantage they can derive. Because today a lot of capital has gone into the sector and some of the companies remain unprofitable. So how do you make it profitable? Obviously, analytics will play a role by providing more accurate data on in terms of targeting customers. And I think this is where the Darwinian principle will come in, because there's a lot of online companies today, and if they have to stay ahead of the race in terms of survival of the fittest, the Darwinian principle, then analytics will play a major role. There's another area which hasn't been talked about too much, but huge potential in that area is the security and surveillance of the country. And we have actually looking at a company which also has done some pilots in terms of security and surveillance. That's the second big area. And third area is financial services. Clearly there's a lot of analytics that's used in the financial services space. Today you have RoboFinance. I don't know how many of you use it, but I don't know how much of analytics goes into that. Some people, I think it's a big area in the US, but it has had mixed success. Then finally, I think another area that one of the other speakers spoke about, which is IoT, Internet of Things. And I think it is a very interesting area, but I think it's also somewhat frustrating that people are just bandying the word IoT. So we get lots of proposals which says it's an IoT company, and then we realize when we drill down to the details that it's an IT services company which is pivoting towards being an IoT company. I think IoT has major implications in terms of remote monitoring, in terms of factory optimization, and health, in the health sector. There are companies in this space. There is a company which is developing at the silicon level IoT solutions, which is in Hyderabad, the company called iNeeda. And then there's a company in Bangalore called Orca Systems, which is also developing IoT for all the communication protocol standards, be it LTE, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Bluetooth low energy, BTLE, and so on. So those are the four trends that I see, in terms of, just to kind of recap, the Android hub, then in terms of digital payment infrastructure as the bulwark for modern retail, and analytics engines that basically certainly will provide the Darwinian advantage to the retail industry and industrial IoT. I think that's another big area. So in conclusion, I'm going to paraphrase Steve Case, who was as you know, the pioneering founder of America Online, who says that we are in the third wave, a new paradigm, entering a new paradigm called the third wave of the internet. The first wave saw AOL, which was America Online, Intel, Microsoft, and other companies lay the foundations for consumers to connect to the internet. The second wave saw companies like Google and Facebook build on top of the internet to create search and social networking capabilities, while apps like Snapchat and Instagram leverage their smartphone revolution. But this is the most important thing. Third wave Case argues we are entering a period in which entrepreneurs will vastly transform major real-world sectors like health, education, transportation, energy, and food, and in the process, change the way we love our daily lives. So I agree with one of the speakers that the exciting times have just started. I think where we start actually transforming people's lives, because so far technology has been a curiosity, novelty, and hopefully it will really start transforming people's lives in a meaningful way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Mohit Pawar is an entrepreneur and an author of the Digital Marketing Handbook, जिसे कुछ पाठकों के द्वारा डिजिटल मार्केटिंग की बाइबल भी कहा गया है. आपने इंफॉर्मेशन एंड द इंसाइट्स एंटरप्रेन्योर्स नीड टू स्टार्ट अ बिजनेस इन इंडिया जैसे विषय पर किताब को ऑथर भी किया है. द डिजिटल मार्केटिंग फॉर स्टार्टअप्स इस विषय पर आप बातचीत करेंगे. आपसे निवेदन है कि कृपया यहाँ पधारें.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Ministry of Electronics and IT and Mr. Bansal, Ms. Katpalia for putting this wonderful seminar together. And thanks to fellow speakers also for sharing all that they know, because it is like really important to listen from other people, because it's like really tough to be omniscient. You cannot know everything. So that's really great. It's an honor to listen to every one of them. And I just want to do a quick poll here to make sure that what I'm going to talk is like of good value to you and I can give you roti. Not the kind you eat, right, but return on time invested. So, like, how many of you are startup founders here, or those who are running your own startups? Okay. And people who want to start their startups? Okay. And anyone who is involved in, who are the people who are involved in startup world apart from these people? Okay, almost everyone. Cool. So I think this is really powerful that India is now the fastest space where startup growth is the fastest. We have 10,000 startups coming up, and America has 83,000. We'll of course reach there and surpass them. But what is really important is that we make sure that all these startups which are mushrooming, coming up in different spaces, that they do not die. And starting a startup is not easy. It's difficult. It takes a lot of courage to do that. But to run it and make it successful is even more difficult. And digital marketing is one thing which can make that happen. So before digital marketing comes into picture, there is got to be a good idea. So my first book, which I wrote with one like very intelligent gentleman, his name is Derek Sivers, very famous in different circles. So he has written a very popular essay which says the essay is multiplier, and it gives different parameters to idea plus execution. He says if you have a weak idea and if you have brilliant execution, you can make it a startup worth $10 million. And if you have a brilliant idea and you have brilliant execution, then you can make a unicorn. So idea is important, but it's not like very important. So even if you have a weak idea, but you can do great or brilliant execution, you can make a success out of your business. And I'll just try to make it really simple. So how many of you know about Baba Ramdev here? Awesome. And if you want to do digital marketing well, do what Baba Ramdev did. So before pushing his product in the market, he got your attention first through his yoga camps. So if you have been to a Baba Ramdev seminar, if or not, if you have watched them on TV, which of course like almost everyone has watched, and Mr. Baba Ramdev is a popular yoga guru here, and he runs a like multi-billion dollar empire. And what he did was, he'll do these seminars, he's got this package, right? And if you are ill, if you are not well, then do this five asanas and pranayama, right? That's the package you do. But if you, then he'll, after he finishes this, he'll say at the end of the seminar that if you are working, if you, husband and wife both are working, and if you don't have much time to make these concoctions, which I've just told you, then you can buy it from us also. So in digital marketing, this thing is known as content marketing, and that's one of the biggest trends within digital marketing right now. And this is not only for small startups. Even if you are a big startup, if in your sales force you run a big software as a services company, it can work there also. So enterprise software companies have big sales cycles, high touch sales. But using digital marketing, you can reduce the sales cycle. You can use automated email outreach to reduce sales cycle. So if there is a company which needs about 1 year to close a sale, using digital marketing, you can reduce that cycle to about 5 months. And you can use techniques like webinars, you can use white papers, you can run videos, like one-to-one and one-to-many kind of things. And so in startup world, there are two kinds of startups. One is being created by the funds which entrepreneurs have themselves created, bootstrap startups with their own fund. And other form of startups which are getting funding from VCs and other investors, and they are being built up. So for two startups, so the first kind of startups which has less money, the organic way is the thing, where you do not pay money to a Facebook or Google to get you customers. So that's the organic thing. There you should rely on the things like blog posts, videos, and the other part where you have a lot of investor money coming in. There you can rely on the entire gamut of things, which is like email marketing, content marketing, and then you have affiliate partnerships where you partner with different companies who have the kind of audience that you want, and then you partner with them. It's a really quick way of succeeding. So I'll give you a 3-point formula like Baba Ramdev does for his yoga camps, and which even if the startup is in the bootstrap side or the investor funded startup side, both can use that particular formula and win in the market they want to. So this formula has 3 points. First is you got to win attention of the people. So right now, your Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram are NDTV's, TV18 and CNBC of India. So TV, just tell me, right, when you're watching TV, right, how many of you look at advertisements? How many of you look at ads, right? You do, okay. And other of you, so the normal notion is that whenever an ad comes on TV, right, people pull up their phone and maybe they'll send an email or a text or a WhatsApp to anyone, right? So the attention is on the cell phone. So if you want to win in this particular market, you got to have the attention of the customer on the mobile phone. That's where, so whatever content you create, whether it be video or email marketing, it's got to be in tune with that cell phone. And any company which is now running a website which does not look good on cell phone is like doomed. So, so I think as soon as if you're already running a startup, make sure that your site is mobile optimized. And I'll say, even if you do not focus about desktop, that's okay. Because anyways, next year about 80% of the viewers that your website will get, they'll be on the cell phone. So optimize your website or any application that you have for the mobile. And if you are creating applications, make sure that you are optimizing this thing for the cell phone from day one, right? Because there is this guy, his name is Seth Godin, he's a popular marketing author. He says, if you invest time on the back end first, when you're creating a product, then it's really easy. But if your product is out there in the market and if you have to reboot it, then a lot of time and money will go into it. And the time and money may not be there with you because there are other startups who are doing it right the first time. So if you want to live on and make it a big business, then make sure that you are doing the back end first, right? So do a lot of thinking, invest time in thinking. Do not rush into creating products or software, whatever you're creating, and optimize it. So how do you win attention? You win attention by doing what Baba Ramdev did. So basically the content marketing, if I have to give you a simple definition of this thing, content marketing is simply taking care of the problems of a person through content. And that content can be words or videos. So, or maybe it's this sort of conference. If your audience, if your customers are going to be sitting in a conference like this, then go in that conference, speak to them. So you do that thing, so that's, you win attention. And you can also win attention by running a paid campaign if you have got investor money. So if you want to launch a product tomorrow, then before you launch it in the market, at least give it 6 months to build the audience around it and then launch it to them. That's a powerful way. And this is not something which is like alien word. A lot of startups have done it. So there is this company in Bombay and they used to be in robotics training space. And then the founder went to Chicago to study for masters. And he and his girlfriend, she was staying in the other coast. And they both wanted to meet every week. So this guy used to travel and every time he used to forget his neck pillow. And if you have to buy a neck pillow in a flight in the US, then you'll pay $25. So he said, okay, it is tough for me, I am forgetting every time. So he thought of creating a jacket which will have a neck pillow inbuilt into it. And then good pockets to carrying your iPad and everything. And they said, okay, to make it through different sources, different vendors, it'll take about $20,000. So they wanted $20,000. And they ran a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter. So can you imagine like how much funding did they get in 30 days? Kickstarter normal campaign runs for 30 days. They wanted $20,000. In 30 days, they raised $9 million for a product which was not even created. It was just a story. So this is one example. So first is win attention. Second is find distribution for your products or software. So Kickstarter is a powerful platform to find distribution. In India, you have Wishberry. And if Wishberry or Kickstarter basically is focused on US and Australian market, they do not allow Indian bank accounts to be linked there. So you can go on Indiegogo, which is another platform. There is another startup, and do not think about startups in the IT space only. So it can be something which can be enabled by IT, e-commerce. So I have another friend, he's from Pakistan. So India we have NASCOM, in Pakistan they have Basha. And this guy comes from a small village in Lahore, and he thought of creating an e-commerce platform for selling handmade shoes. And this guy just ran a campaign on Kickstarter, wanted to raise $15,000, and then raised $1,03,000, enough to start a company in Lahore. And from there, he went to Y Combinator, which is a popular accelerator in the US. And now they are selling shoes across the world. So rather than thinking for 6 months or 8 months of idea and then getting into a room and creating a product, just create a hypothesis or a MPV, a small prototype of product, showcase it, and then it raise funding from people who will be the actual buyers. Other very important thing, and which is like tough for the investors, not for entrepreneurs. So one of the speakers was talking about different age groups. Sarandeep was talking about it. And these young people, they are like really curious, and they they stand up and talk whatever they want to. And in this group, there are people who think, okay, investor money is there for the taking. And they want to put a startup on their resume, do it for 2 years, even if it fails. It has become fashionable to fail at doing a startup. And then write a big story about it in your story, other places, and then make it go viral, raise another big round of investment. So anyone who is in this room willing to be an entrepreneur or already an entrepreneur with investors' money, make sure that you are putting your best time there in the startup, right? And give investors the due of the trust that they've given to you. And it is possible. And do not think about investors' money. It is your own life. So if you waste 2 years of your life and waste all that money, right? So that'll be investors' money, of course, but the time of life will be out of your own life. And if you get in the habit of failing, right? It is like a scary habit. Then you can be in habit for long. So even if you fail after a lot of trying. So that is very, very important. And digital marketing is really powerful, so it can keep you away from failing. Why do startups die? Because they do not have customers. How do you get customers? It's very simple. Either you have a website or an app. You just got to have a predictable way to bring to that website or app some traffic. If you have the traffic, then you can engage with that particular customer who is coming to a website or app, and then you can interact with this person through content, maybe a video or blog post, and then once you win that person's trust, like Baba Ramdev did, then you say, okay, buy this product of mine. And then you'll not have to push. There'll be a pull. They'll say, okay, when is your product coming up in the market? I want to buy it. And I'll close it at like this concept. This concept is called 1000 True Fans. So this guy, his name is Kevin Kelly. He was the founding editor of Wired. How many of you know about Wired, the magazine? Okay. So it was a pioneering magazine in its own space, very popular still. And he wrote an essay about 11 years back. The essay is 1000 True Fans. And he talks about this economy that we are living in right now. He says, in this economy, when everything is transparent, you have a channel in form of web where you can have customers on the click of a button. You, as an entrepreneur, only need 1000 true fans to survive and make a foundation to grow your business. Who are these 1000 true fans? A true fan is someone that buys your product even if your product is not the best out there in the market. Even if you are not the first in the market, even if your product is not finished, your true fan will come to you saying that, when are you launching your product? I want to buy it. And to go from 0 to 1000 true fans, it is about 8 months. So your first fan, maybe it'll take you 1 month. From 1 to 10, you can go in 2 to 3 months using digital marketing. And from 3 to 100, about 4 more months. And from 100 to 1000, it's really easy. So I think that thinking you should come in. Whatever startup you build, go in with your 100% heart and soul. And do not worry about work-life balance. Do not worry about getting 7 or 8 hours of sleep. I'll not say that you sleep for only 2 hours, you'll die. But sleep for 4 or 5 hours. And do not stop Facebook browsing. Use Facebook for understanding consumer behavior. And there are a lot of pundits out there in the market who write about what app is going to be big right now. So you do not need a lot of science or understanding or intelligence to do that. Keep on looking at the app store and see which top 100 apps are there. Keep an eye. And when you're traveling in a flight or a train or a bus or a cab, just see what other person is browsing, right? That's consumer behavior. And they'll tell you what thing is coming up right now. So keep an eye for what people are doing, and then make true fans, use digital marketing to get your first customers. And that'll make sure that we do not die, the startups do not die, and we'll reach 10,000, 83,000, and then 1 lakh or 2 lakh successful startups. That's more important. Thank you very much.
थैंक यू सो मच. इंडिया अब स्टार्टअप हो चुका है, इंडिया अब स्टैंड अप हो चुका है, इंडिया अब स्पीड अप हो चुका है. And now, as a token of our immense respect and to honor our esteemed dignitaries on the dais, we want to present them a memento. I would like to request Mr. Rajiv Bansal to kindly present a memento to His Excellency Mr. Aubin Hill. I would like to request now Geeta Katpalia, scientist, to kindly present a memento to Sri Arvind Thakur. Mr. Ganapati Venugopal. Mr. Sarandeep Singh. Mr. Nakul Saxena. Mr. Siddharth Das. Mr. Mohit Pawar. And Mr. Rajiv Bansal. Thank you. Now I invite Mr. Prashant Kumar, the scientist, to kindly propose vote of thanks.
Respected Mr. Rajiv Bansal, Joint Secretary MeitY, and respected invited speakers, our invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of MeitY and the entire organizing team of NEGD and Ministry of Electronics and IT, extend a very heartily vote of thanks to all the speakers for taking out their precious time and grace the event and share their most valuable thoughts with us. A big thank you to Mr. Hill for inviting Indian entrepreneurs to Jamaica for business. And I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Mr. Thakur for his explanation of various aspects of the startup ecosystem in India. Further, I thank Mr. Ganapati, Mr. Sandeep Singh, Mr. Siddharth Das, Mr. Pawar, and Mr. Nakul Saxena for sharing their thoughts with us. Last but not least, I thank entire organizing team of NEGD, Ministry of Electronics and IT, and other supporting agencies involved in organizing this seminar. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So wish you very good luck. I request first of all our guests to kindly join us for a cup of tea, and I would like to request you as well for a cup of tea, but I would like to request all of you to kindly stay back. Let the guests first proceed for the tea. Thank you. So I, Manisha Dubey, take your leave. Meet you tomorrow here itself at 11 o'clock. Dhanyavad, Namaskar, Jai Hind.